Hello everyone, and welcome to my first review video. I hesitate to call it a review because it's not a formal or professional review like you'd find in the New York Times or whatever. This is just kind of my experience with the book, my thoughts, what I liked, my impressions of things. Just a normal person's idea of what it was like, and hopefully that'll give you some idea of whether the book's for you. Again, the book that we're talking about today is Sword Art Online, the light novels, and this is by Reki Kawahara. I'm going to do the whole light novel series, not just this first book, but this is the one that I happen to have in my hand, here with me right now. So what I want to do first is I want to talk about the anime a little bit and talk about kind of the similarities and the differences, and hopefully make the case that yes, if you have seen the anime, you know the story already, but there's still value in reading the books. So first off, again, the story is the same. For the most part, there are a few differences. Noticeably, in the early volumes of the light novel, there's some chronology differences between the anime and the first volume of the light novel, and that's because of just the way that Sword Art Online was written. After some further events had been written. Reki Kawahara went back and kind of retconned some of the earlier stuff, so that's why there's that difference between the anime and the light novels, is because the anime mixes together the original light novel series and the progressive light novel series, and kind of molds those together into one cohesive timeline. So that's tiny differences, not anything to really worry about. Just kind of things that you read and you're like, but it's fine. The other things I want to talk about is one of the reasons why I really like the light novel. And understand I love Sword Art Online, the anime. It's probably my favorite anime there is, but I can admit there are some things in it that just kind of don't make sense at all, really. In particular, I'm thinking of a scene early on in the anime where there's a character who's dying, and Kirito is trying to save him by giving him a potion, and the character doesn't let him. He stops him from giving him the potion, which in the anime they don't. And it's just kind of like, dude, what are you doing? Take the potion and live. Like, don't just throw away your life like this. It's kind of totally against anything you've done at all up to this point. It makes no sense. The light novels actually explain why he did that. That just like, and the anime does a good job of showing this, that all damage is not. The damage isn't instantaneous. It's all damage over time. You get hit with the sword, and you don't just automatically have a chunk of your health thrown away. The bar decreases over time to whatever the value should be now. In the same way, the potions, the books explain, are healing over time. The crystals, which we do see later on, which are higher level items, do heal you instantly, but the potions are healing over time. So this character knew that the amount that his health was decreasing because of the hit was faster than the amount that he would be healed by the potion. So even if he took the potion, he would still die. There was nothing at that point that was going to save him. He knew that, and so he kept Kirito from wasting a valuable resource. Because when you're in a game of death, one potion might be the difference between life and death for someone else, and he didn't want to risk Kirito not having that potion later when he needed it, because he wasted it on him when he was going to die anyway. And that takes a moment that in the anime is kind of like, dude, what are you doing? And turns it into a real great character moment that fits totally with everything that he's done before. Um, and there are several actually moments like that in that same storyline in the anime. Um, there's a part where Kirito's personality just kind of 100% changes, and it really bugged me the first time I saw the anime, because I'm like, did was Kirito just replaced by like his evil doppelganger or something? It was just totally jarring. Um, Later on, as I rewatched the anime, I came up with some theories of what was going on, of what would explain this total discrepancy, um, and then I read the light novels, and in the light novels, it explains what his thought process was, and it makes total sense, and wasn't actually too far off from what I just came up with myself. Actually, the only real difference was there was an extra character in the scene, in the algebra of the scene in the books, and that was the last piece to totally understanding why Kirito did what he did. And so I really like the light novels for that reason, is that they they explain some things that the anime leaves out that can kind of be really unsatisfying with the anime, because they're just kind of, they look like holes, and in the anime they are, but in the light novels they explain it so much better, and I think that's just a product of the medium, really. Um, so the other thing I want to talk about is that the light novels are written from Kirito's perspective. This is not universal, and there's some parts where it'll go to a third-person perspective and talk about events that way. But the majority of the time, in the majority of the storylines, we're seeing things through Kirito's eyes. He's explaining to us what's going on. We're inside his head. Um, it's kind of like if you've ever read the Hunger Games books and then watched the Hunger Games movies. That's kind of the vibe that you get. That disconnect of the point of view is the same sort of thing that you get in reading the light novels for Sword Art Online versus watching the anime. Like I've mentioned before, this makes it so that there's a lot of things that make more sense, because we're inside of his head as he makes these decisions. So that's another reason why I think the light novels are a good thing to read, even if you've watched the anime, because they give you a new perspective on what's going on. And honestly, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who complain about Kirito as a character, either calling him Jesus-kun, which I could go on about that for a while, and that's not my point here. But either calling him Jesus-kun, or just saying that he's totally inconsistent and all that. And from the anime, I can kind of see where people are coming from. I Even just from the perspective of the anime, I disagree, but I can see where they're coming from. But in the light novels, I feel like it's not even a question there. And I think that's all I want to say about comparing to the anime. So now I want to talk about the series itself. First, let's start out continuing to talk about Kirito. Like I said, there are a lot of people who call him Jesus-kun because he kind of just he's the hero of the story, and he's, to be frank, way overpowered. It's almost comical sometimes just how overpowered he is, and a lot of people find a lot of problem with that. And again, I can see where they're coming from, but I feel like the story does a really good job of showing that it's not unreasonable. Yes, he's overpowered, but there's a reason why he's overpowered, and I think that if you've played enough online RPGs, MMORPGs, you know that it's possible to get that overpowered. And if you're a really high tier player and you spend a whole bunch of time working on it, you can get that stupidly overpowered. And I think that that's not really a flaw in the story that Kirito is so overpowered, and it's I think it's well explained and it makes sense. Um, Honestly, I think the thing with me for Kirito is that yes, he kind of has this like two sides thing that these two different sides to him that he kind of flips back and forth between, that yes can seem like he's just inconsistently written, but I feel like Reki Kawahara does a good job of showing that there are two Kiritos. There's the real Kirito, that that can come out in really tender moments, versus the beater Kirito, the person who's on the front lines trying to clear the game. That Kirito that is the role that he feels like he has to play in the game's world, in the game's society. And so I think he does a really good job of showing that there are those two competing sides of Kirito, that they're both Kirito, and neither is Kirito. I think he's a lot more complex of a character than people give him credit for a lot of time. And honestly, I like Kirito. I mean, he's believable to me, especially since the more I watch the anime and the more I read the light novels, assuming I was good enough at the game, I can see myself being Kirito. I can see myself putting myself in the role that he put himself in the game. I can see myself making the choices he made. If I was trapped in Sword Art Online and I was as good at the game as he is, I probably would be doing the exact same things that he does a lot of the time. And so I can really connect with him, and I feel like the emotion is real. I can't speak to the Japanese version of it. I only read, well, I don't only read English. There are other languages I read too, but I don't read Japanese. So I have to read. I'm reading in English, as you can see. So I can't speak to the Japanese of it, but the English, yeah, the prose can be a little clunky at times, and I don't know how much of that is Reki Kawahara's skill at crafting prose versus the problems of translation. I don't know. Yes, the prose can be a little clunky at times, but the story and the characters still convey emotion. There are certain points in the story that if you've ever watched the anime or read the books, you can probably pick out at least some of them. That even after having watched the anime 4 times now, I think, and having read the light novels, all of them at least once, and some of them two times, that they still get to me, and there's still a couple of them where I cry when I see or read them. Still, even after, I mean, I know everything that's going to happen, but it still just touches me that much. So the emotion is real, and I really like that. Again, I think Reki Kawahara does a good job of creating believable characters. Like I said, Kirito is super believable to me because I could be Kirito. But even the other characters in the anime, you might not see all. You don't get as much character building as you do in the light novels, but especially in the light novels, you see these characters, you get to know them, and they're real gamers, and that's really what I love about Sword Art Online, is that it really does understand games and gamers. One of my favorite moments in the books that I remember, and in the anime too, is that there's a point where somebody talks about ganking and uses the word ganking correctly, and I'm just like, again, I can't tell you what it says in the Japanese, but to correctly use that word in the English version, it just made my day. Because so often you see people trying to use gamer lingo, and it just falls flat because they're not really using it right. But this does it really well, and it just it gets gamers. It really does. Just the mentalities that go on, and the social dynamics, and you don't see it as much, but even the economic dynamics. It's good. I really I think he does a really good job of showing what it would be like. And so I think the last thing I want to do is actually show you the book itself, more than just what's in the book. So as you can see, there's some wonderful artwork of Kirito and Asuna on the front. There's this really adorable chibi Kirito and Asuna on the back, which I just love. All of the light novels have these little chibi versions on the back. Usually the back cover ones aren't necessarily things that actually happen in the story, but they're just kind of fun little things. If you're not familiar with light novels as a medium, what kind of distinguishes them from other types of books is they're generally shorter, kind of like novella length, I would say. But they're kind of in between a novella and a full-on graphic novel, in that they do have pictures in them, but they're generally speaking full-page illustrations, and there's not a whole lot of them. Like it's not like a picture book or a manga or something like that. Just every so often you'll be reading along and you'll come across a full-page picture like this, which I really like as a format. I mean, I wish more books did this, because it's really nice to just see some of these moments, how kind of the author envisions it, and kind of compare that to how you envision it from the prose. The other thing I like is about the book format is they have these color illustrations right in the very front that have kind of some quotes and things from the that you'll get in the book, and tiny little character descriptions of who said them. I don't know how spoilery they are for the whole book, because like I said, I'm intimately familiar with the story of Sword Art Online, so it's a little harder for me to recognize, oh wait, this is not something that's immediately apparent. So you might want to read the whole book first, and then look at the pictures in the front. But they're nice pictures. The other thing to know about these is like the text is not small. The pages are not large. It's not a very thick book. It won't take you long to read it, probably. I mean, understanding that I love Sword Art Online, so when I get a new light novel for it, I take a Saturday and just read the whole thing straight. And I say take a Saturday, it only takes a couple hours. They're not very long books. But in this small package is a lot of story, and I really enjoy them. There's currently, as I understand it, in the English, there are, let's see, Volume 9 just came out for the main series one. Volume 10 is coming out in April, so really excited for that, not too far away. Then for the Progressive series, there is currently, I think, Progressive 4 just came out. So you're looking at 13-ish that are out right now or about to come out. Currently in the Japanese, there are, I think we're up through 5 or 6 in Progressive and 18 in the main series. So they currently are translating them at about a rate of 3 or 4 a year. So another 2 years-ish, 2 or 3 years before we catch up to where the Japanese is now. So if you happen to read Japanese, then you can get that version and get all the way through the current story arc. But yeah, and that's kind of Sword Art Online. As far as like content goes, I say you're safe in the first volume. In some later volumes, there gets to be some kind of heavy material. Nothing's ever super graphically described, but there are some things that a lot of people find. Let me just say the second arc, the fairy dance arc, a lot of people like significantly less than the Aincrad arc, the first one, because of kind of the creeper factor of the main antagonist, the villain in that arc. If you're worried about that sort of thing, just go on IMDb or wherever your preferred vehicle of choice is for the anime, and like I said, the story is the same. Read through the parental the content advisory section, which does a good job of not having the spoilers, of keeping the spoilers out, but still telling you kind of the things that go on, and that'll give you a good idea of what you're looking into if that concerns you. But my thing with that is, I feel like it's not done for nothing. It's not just like it's not out of. I don't think it's out of place. I think the things that happen to the characters, there's a reason behind it, and there's actually the other thing is in the back of each of the books, there's an afterword by Reki Kawahara where he kind of talks about the contents of the book, but also the process of making the books. And in one of them, he actually talks about this idea that that he wonders about, if he puts his characters through needless suffering, and he kind of leaves that question unanswered. But I would answer that it's not needless. I think that there's a point to it all. I don't think it's gratuitous. I think it adds to the story in ways that you wouldn't get if it wasn't there. It's not to say you couldn't have told the story differently, but I feel like it's tastefully done. If that makes any sense, and you're free to disagree with me on that, but that's kind of my take on it. Yeah, I think that's all that I have for today. So next time we're going to. I think I'm going to do I think I'm going to do. There's two books I'm kind of debating between which I'm going to do next. I'm either going to do The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson or The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Those are going to be the next two. I just don't know what order they're going to be in yet. After that, though, we're also going to probably do something from Isaac Asimov. I might actually do two different Asimovs because I'll probably do something from The Foundation, and I'll probably do something from iRobot. Then after that, I want to do something from the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant from Stephen R. Donaldson, and then I've got a few more. But if there's any books you want me to read and talk about, As long as it's something I own or can find in the library, then I'm happy to do it. So just leave that down in the comments down below. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, keep reading.